The fruits of the Spirit, chapter 3, Spirit, and then, of course, scripture is open. We opened this up last week from the book of Galatians 5:22 through 23, the writer being Paul. Last week, we covered the first five: love, which is the foundation of all, joy, peace, long suffering, which is endurance, and patience. And that's something that we needed to utilize this week. And then we ended with kindness. So we will complete the other four today. There is a quote by Mahatma Gandhi that our church administrator put in our boot camp folders that I really think sums up what this teaching is all about, what Jesus came to teach us, and what many master teachers teach us. It says, our beliefs become our thoughts become our words become our actions become our habits become our values become our destiny. So it speaks to what this new thought movement is all about, is truly teaching us to mind our thoughts, the garden of our mind, and whatever we give more thought to is what's going to show up. And so every Sunday and during the week, the Sunday messages and the classes are truly just reiterating the things that's been taught all these years. And we want to reiterate them because we cannot change truth. But what we can do is make sure that these thoughts of the fruit, the attributes, that they are uppermost, the principles are uppermost in our mind and become our dominant thought. So as we complete the rest of the four: goodness, faithfulness, meekness, and self-control, I want to start off with a prayer, the prayer that's known around the world, that I feel ties the fruits of the Spirit with the ways that we are to conduct ourselves as children of God, made in that image and that likeness. And this comes from the book of Psalms, written by David. Psalm 23, 1 through 6. And it's really a prayer, it's a song, it's a poem, it's a hymn. And it says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me besides the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guides me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and loving kindness, and some writers say goodness and mercy. But today I say, surely goodness and loving kindness shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever." This psalm reading is an all-around mental treatment. If we really can put our concerns in the hands of the Spirit, trusting the wisdom of Spirit, it truly unburdens the mind, the struggles we may be experiencing, to think affirmatively through all things. This prayer is the realization that the Lord is our provider. I shall not want is clearly a recognition of the abundance and the prosperity of our God. To not want is to deny lack, which can be heavy on the mind when we feel or experience we don't have what we need. A writer calls these turbulent thoughts. That's why he would have me to lie down in green pastures and be led beside the still waters. Green pastures represent newness, freshness, which spirit continuously gives to the soul. The pastures represent abundance. The still waters are the peaceful states of being. To be able to be at peace when stuff is going on is when I lay beside the still waters. Thoughts of being still. The restoring of our souls is cleaning out that memory bank, that subconscious, to divine harmony, to paths of righteousness. We are speaking on divine guidance and unification with the one. The valleys of the shadow of death and darkness is not seeing the light of God, even though it's always there. There is an open door to a fuller understanding, and that door is always open. That knowing under all circumstances that God is present. In this prayer, the rods are our spiritual power and defense to be utilized, used to get us out of those cracks and crevices. That reminds me of how God designed the deer, that when it says hinds feet in high places, that means that the deer was designed, its hooves was made that it can get through the cracks and crevices of a mountain without falling. The Creator created us with the same abilities to get through anything, to come out on the brighter side of whatever. The staff is a heavy stick, a bludgeon, that the shepherds use to protect the sheep from the wild animals. And for us, metaphysically, the sheep are our thoughts that are pure. The staff is to keep those impure thoughts away. And that's our prayer and our meditation, in our affirmations. The table prepared for us is the ever-present substance, that spiritual food, which is always with us and within us, despite opposing thoughts. The oil that anoints our head is the joy that is poured out into the understanding when we realize the abundance of God's love. As we are assured of the presence and the power of the Creator, let us know this eternal goodness shall always be with us. Let us not get so hustled and worried in the outside world that it does not allow us to get still and to know that the Lord is our shepherd. We lack no thing. Rest, health, supply, love, respectful relationships, those thoughts that oppose our truth is laid to rest in those green pastures, in that still water. We are not the sons and daughters of limitation, but the renewed, unlimited, and transformed demonstration of God. David, our writer, represents love. David recognizes that God is all there, all that there is, that the whole universe is in perfect harmony, rhythm, and order. This prayer, this affirmation, this song, this mental treatment assists us in knowing eternal goodness is our birthright, a continual light of the soul that declares all is well with my soul. My strength is renewed. I run the race without fail. I lie down in green pastures of contentment. I shall not want, for the Father goes and prepares. God restoreth everything concerning me. When we can say that every Sunday, that God restoreth everything concerning me, that means nothing is out of order, for we know who goes before us, who is within us, who is all around us, who is always working on our behalf. We are renewed, we are recharged, no weariness, no dragging. When we can affirm that our life from the battlefield of thought turns from disappointment, lack, hurt, and fear to the fruits of the Spirit. We need not fear those dark spaces, says the psalmist, for there is that presence that God that goes before us when we call upon it, that lighteth our pathways. The shepherd of our soul rescues us. We cannot be lost, for God cannot lose itself. The table has been set, substance to be used, the oil to anoint. Let us come into the consciousness of spiritual fruit, for we shall be fed the fruits of the Spirit. We shall not want, for that soul of ours is recharged. The table of good is always availed. The oil of love is constantly poured. The cup of living water is full to overflowing. But this truth, these divine words cannot and will not affect us until we give recognition to them. Listening is being in tune with the still small voice. A negative mindset, even with all the spiritual studies and techniques, cannot take a positive stance until we truly surrender, letting go of the lesser and embodying the greater. The fruits of the Spirit assist us in getting the nectar, the vitamins, to empower us to be and do that of the Spirit. To live is to make the investment of living. To prosper is to invest in prosperity. To feel at one mint is to invest in that unification process. All of our investments has to be first mental, second believed and felt, and third demonstrated. Without our living power, nothing can remain alive. Attributes, principles, and fruit of the Spirit is the main ingredients for successful living. So to continue on this journey of the fruits, we go to number 6, goodness. Goodness is always a saving grace in divine goodness. All of our kind acts done in love has been preserved as seeds to create even more goodness. Goodness is a state of consciousness that dispels evil and darkness. Goodness means an uprightness of heart and life. When we act out of true goodness of the heart, we are obedient to God's commandments and seek to be a blessing to others. The spirit of goodness is never sacrificed for any other values. Psalms 23 is based on goodness. The 7th fruit, faithfulness. The perceiving power of the mind connecting with the power of substance to shape, mold, and bring forth. Faith, the power to do the seemingly impossible. Faith is a deep inner knowing that that which is called, affirmed, declared is already ours. The assurance of things projected. Faith is our Peter faculty, the rock. To be faithful is to not be moved, no matter what. You call forth your healing. You call forth your resource and supply. You call forth your companionship. You call forth your spiritual understanding and awakening. And you cannot leave those thoughts until thou has blessed you. That is our faithfulness to stay true to what we say we believe, what we say we want, our dreams and our desires. So let us taste this 8th fruit, meekness, humility, freedom from puffing up, not allowing arrogance to lead. A meek person is not self-willed, but trained to respond to any negative circumstance with love. To be meek is not to seek an eye for an eye, but to realize, as it says in Matthew 5:5, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Not through human limitations, but through receptivity of the divine power. Our last fruit, self-control. The ability to control one's emotions, desires, and behaviors, especially in difficult times. To always allow that Christ consciousness to speak and move on our behalf. Is it easy to respond and not to react? Most times, no. But possible, yes. Self-control is a discipline that the Spirit of God grows through you. It's called spiritual maturity, led by one's inner truth and not by outside influence. Self-control has three components: monitoring, standards, and strength. To monitor is to keep track of our thoughts and feelings and action. Standards, to have guidelines that move us to desirable outcomes. And strength, that spiritual energy that we need to control impulses and reactions. Self-control at first may produce unhappiness because of the separation of the pleasure senses. But after self-control ripens, again, maturity, the soul of us begins to experience joy, no longer led by the senses, but by the spirit, a fulfillment that leads, guides, directs us to higher ground, no longer suffering, but rejoicing. If we can dwell not in our shortcomings, but in the fruit of the Spirit, we shall find peace, love, spiritual adventure. Our worthwhile accomplishments are not outside of us, but the inner victories that proclaim the image and the likeness of our Creator. Our learning, our understanding, our awareness and demonstrations of this teaching. Self-control can, if we are open, teach us our greater inner strengths. Ernest Holmes says in chapter 3, creation does not mean making something out of nothing. Creation is the passing of spirit into form, which is the movement of life, substance stimulated by mind. Holmes goes on to say, spirit cannot change from being all, for there is nothing to change into. Our chapter 3 is beckoning us to understand the only active principle and power is spirit, there to be used for whatever we need it for. That's just how much God loves us, is to let us use it for whatever we need and desire. But in order for spirit to express fully, there must be a vessel for it to express through. We can look across the land. We can look at anything. We can look at our furniture. We can look at our bodies. It is made from the same substance. The only difference is the molecule and the density of it. And so this spirit, this power, this energy, this vibration, this love that pours itself into the consciousness of the man and the woman, we can use it for definite purposes. We are the vessel. Our thoughts are what the law will project. Whatever may be going on, change the mind and the goings on will change. A writer says the universal creative power that flows through us causes us to act. God's nature is to create, to express itself through its creation. We, family, are the greatest of God's creation. We marvel at the flowers and the mountains and the oceans and the beauty that we see. But how often do we look within and see the beauty of God through you and through me? Let us not overlook our connection with that greatness, that power, that knowingness, that beingness. Listen, when we move through this thing we call life, but to truly get that I'm not alone, while we are remembering songs and poems and sayings, you know how when you play your favorite song or you read your favorite poem or you like sayings that make you feel good, that opens up the mind. Can we remember God, creator, father, mother, counselor, doctor, healer, deliverer? Can we remember that as a favorite of ours, that it stays at the top of our thinking? It stays within the heart for our feeling, and that it acts through our doing. When I avail myself, the energy of the creator has an outlet. When you avail yourself, the energy of the creator has an outlet. Dr. Edwards says it is one thing to know we are vehicles and conduits through which the divine creativity expresses, but it is another thing to rise and act on that knowledge. But the movement of mind, with the movement of mind, we generate a force of circulation that continues to activate itself through our thinking. We must, for that greater awareness, we must empty and clean out undesirable thoughts that we may make room for our new fruitful thoughts. And this has to be daily, if not several times a day, is to empty the thoughts that no longer serve you, the thoughts that bring back hurt or pain or anger. We must clean those thoughts out. That's our spiritual work on ourselves. And when we do the work on ourselves, we allow ourselves to be better demonstrators for our family, our neighbors, our communities, our world. And when we can all come together like we did this week to make a difference, we will actually make a difference. Infinite intelligence, Christ consciousness that swirls, and Reverend Paul speaks on the ether of life. It is swirling in the ether of life and beckoning us to express it more fully, to not hold people accountable for what happens, but to hold self accountable. When we use the creative power of our minds to channel and magnify goodness, channel and magnify our divinity, we then assist in generating greater energy and vibration around the world, which then magnifies the fruits of the Spirit. Our Christ consciousness is not developed in a day or overnight. When we enter with intention, the will to want it, the want is up to us and how much we invest in it. Fruit is nature springing from our source. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, humility. That's that meekness and self-control. We are the gatekeepers of our thinking. We must guard what comes in and what goes out. The in-between is prayer, affirmation, meditation, stillness, and study. The fruit of the Spirit is that enhances, elevates, appreciates, and originates in truth. Only when we put an investment, when we sow seeds, and when we give, are we at our very best and doing our spiritual work. Only then will life satisfy us. A spiritual power is released through our thinking. Holmes tells us the real self is God, that spark that burns within. The soul already knows the greater. Let everything we do be done in love. Good never prevails without a pure intention. Ignorance will stay until enlightenment is had. Wars will continue until the consciousness of peace is demonstrated. Division is a thing because oneness is not practiced on a regular basis. Lack has to show itself because it has a believer. Self-awareness is challenged because we are afraid to be successful. Spiritual awareness is a thing because I got to do right in all aspects. I must be kind no matter what was said or done. I must be thinking, walking with the Lord, and I must be aware of it. He walks with me and he talks with me and he tells me that I'm his very own. I am transformed by the renewing of my mind, which is a scientific act, pouring, awakening channels within my thinking and my believing. That creative energy that heals, restores, brings forth. This study, we do it every Sunday and we do it during the week. It's for our mental healing. And when the mind is healed, it stimulates all healing. I'm awakened, I stand, and I will be counted in the spiritual realm. As much as we stood to be counted at the voting booth. Let us stand and be counted as a spiritual vessel, a spiritual medium that is unobstructed with the past, not worried about the future, but standing in the now on holy ground. We are thinking on those things that are of good rapport. God is all, God is in all, God is over all, and God is through all. Let us behold thee. Peace and blessings, and thank all of you for tuning in.